So that's the infamous emu farm where Disneyland gets all their emu legs from.
Well, if it's not turkey, then what is it?
Emu.
Emu?
This video contains spoilers for the recent episodes of Ducktales. You have been warned. For some whatever reason, I decided what I had to say about just one of these episodes didn't justify its own video, so here I am doing a 2-in-1, baby! I don't know why I'm like this. Back in Let's Get Dangerous, I expressed confusion that Bradford seemed to so completely reject the title of supervillain when that's so obviously what Fowl is and always has been. Now that we get to dwell on it more, it's clear the guy is just lying to himself. Black Heron may be the more over-the-top personality, relishing in her evil deeds and responsible for Fowl's branding and outward villainy, but Bradford himself is pretty purely malevolent no matter how much he tries to claim otherwise. I mean, he never voices any apprehension with the attempted murder of children, so... It's interesting to have one of these characters who doesn't see themselves as a villain, only to pair them in pretty much every scene with characters both on their side and against, who keep saying in the most literal terms possible, yes you are, you want to take over the world, that makes you in no uncertain terms a supervillain, at least own it. Once again, we use Bradford as a foil for Scrooge, in the sense that both spend this story lying to themselves and their partners about what they are and what they do. Bradford is a hypocrite in every sense of the word. Not only are all of his goals clearly villainous, but after spending the whole story criticizing Heron for wanting to use the papyrus, he does so with ease when it allows him a ticket out of his situation. Scrooge is similar to Bradford in that he doesn't want to view his expeditions as fantastical adventures, but he also can't help but regale his niece and nephew with tales of his exploits painted in that oh-so-Scroogey fantastical way. What Scrooge has over Bradford, what eventually allows him to grow and change and not be a massive hypocrite, is that he can accept the world that he's a part of. The world Scrooge occupies is fantastical, and there's no better word for what he does than adventuring. Not lying to himself about that allows him to enjoy what he does. The same is true of Heron, who's clearly having a ball being a villain whenever she shows up, despite always losing. Bradford never enjoys himself because he refuses to embrace his actions for what they are. The more we see of Bradford, the more I wonder what his eventual comeuppance at the end of the season will be, as it's hard to imagine what the biggest possible lose state is for a guy who's already this miserable. You know, I gotta say, that expression Bradford makes toward the end of the episode when Scrooge calls him trustworthy makes me wonder if we're building, I don't know, some guilt? I've been wrong about some subtle implications like that in this show before, but that would be a neat turn. Having his betrayal of so much trust be what makes Bradford realize that he really is just a bad person. In other news, little Donald and Della are back. Oh, sorry, I mean Donna and Dello. That's Christina V doing a stand-up job replacing the late great Russie Taylor as young Donald, and while I appreciate Donald's musical inclinations being a consistent character trait across this show, it was a pretty one-note gag in this one. That said, it's really sweet to see his concern for his sister be the impetus for his first ever rage out. Just as sweet as seeing Scrooge and Donald interact without all the bitterness and mutual distaste for each other's lifestyle that makes up their present-day interactions. There's a couple of oddities I have with the timeline here. Namely, I'm not 100% sure if the timeline of Fowl's origin we get here tracks with the flashback episode we used to introduce them back in Season 1. But, you know, I'm willing to accept some subtle retcons. That said, I also wonder how much time passed between the cold open in the 60s and the main story with young Della and Donald. Like, is it still the 60s, or... Oh, no, wait, there's cell phones, never mind! Overall, the first adventure is a nice look at the past, even though I'm honestly not 100% sure this story tells us anything we couldn't have learned just as easily in the present. This is when another YouTuber who's more clever than I am would insert a seamless, smooth transition into discussing the next episode, while also reminding you to click subscribe and ring the bell so that you get notified when other videos like this go up. And also just because it would make my day. I don't know what kind of character I expected when I heard Michelle Gomez would be voicing Scrooge's sister, but a completely out-of-her-gourd entrepreneurial mad lady probably should have been higher on my list. Primarily though, Fight for Castle Mcduck is a Webby episode. Fitting, given that the last time we visited the old Mcduck family home 2 whole seasons ago, Webby was afforded very little to do. We build on Webby's struggle with myopia that I mentioned back in New Gods on the Block. It's like Webby is physically incapable of letting a conflict lie, though I like that in this instance it goes deeper than her instinctual need for everyone and everything to always be on good terms. This episode draws attention to how, understandably, Webby still thinks of herself as a bit of an outsider to the family. It's like for her, her inclusion as part of the clan is contingent on her ability to keep the ship running. keep everyone living up to this lofty standard of the perfect idol family. She's not used to the idea that family argues or squabbles or has full-blown physical altercations while still being able to love each other. And she needs to accept that none of the members of the family are truly idols. None of them belong on a pedestal, literal or figurative. What that means is that they'll always fight, but it also means that Webby absolutely does belong in the fold, as this incredibly flawed person who's still able to bring out the best in everyone when she's just honest about what she wants. You know, that's another good, subtle lesson for kids, I think. Don't try to force family conflicts to end through weird, manipulative tactics, guys. Just admit that you're uncomfortable. Plot-wise, I like that the show has settled into its foul, treasure-hunting formula without feeling samey from week to week. Granted, part of that is Fowl themselves spending the front half of this story in the shadows. While the good guys have their family conflicts, the Phantom Blot makes his second appearance, and getting to hear Giancarlo Esposito play flustered and given an actual character arc is a good time after he went pretty underutilized in his debut. The egghead Pepper absolutely brings out the best in him, beyond just being the best, period. I was not expecting to hear Amy Sedaris, but boy is she a welcome presence wherever she pops up.
And now you work for me, boomers!
No, that's not an excuse to make another Boss Baby. What are you doing? Stop! DreamWorks, stop! I hope Blot and Pepper just keep popping up as the goofy, wholesome villain duo. There's way too much potential there. Having a villainous foil for Webby is also fun, and I like that their optimistic desire to insert themselves with prickly people ultimately works out for these two precious duck beans. Man, more than anything else though, this is probably the funniest episode of this show all season. After my most consistent complaint for the last several weeks being a comparatively low laugh count, this one had me busting a gut at least once in every scene. I mean, these gags land hard. Favorites have gotta be,
hey, did you ever try to slap your sibling so hard that your other sibling felt it? And then they did?
and,
Gesundheit.
and,
Look what your pettiness has done to my favorite great nephew.
What? Your favorite?
just banger after banger. This episode is pure chaos and I love it. It just does pretty much everything it sets out to do right and has a laugh riot doing so. But what did you think about these episodes? Drop into the comments and let me know, and like and subscribe for more stuff like this.
Oh my gosh, no magic can kill me! I'm the chosen one!